All right, period 4. Just wanted to clarify a few things. Okay, so right now you probably see your quiz score. You're like, oh, why did I get, why am I getting a D or an F? It's because you've only taken one quiz or test and you didn't really take it. Remember, on the course syllabus, I said I reserve the right to pick any problems from your homework and make it either your homework score or make it a quiz score. So in this particular instance, in your homework in 1.4, I picked problem number 85 on page 49, I should say, and to make it your quiz score. Now you're like, why did you do that, Mrs. Zhu? Why'd you pick that problem? Well, it's one, to see if you've been paying attention to the videos that I've been spending time making. Two, have you been paying attention to the lecture notes, right, when I'm teaching live? So I mentioned how to solve a problem like this multiple times, okay? So it's not just like, oh, the resources just came out and you didn't teach us how to do it. No. You have no excuse. I could even point you to the video of where I showed you how to solve a polynomial or a quadratic inequality. Okay, so again, if you did poorly on this quiz or test, you see on this quick homework, if you go to School Loop and you see your grade and it's low, you have a chance to make it up tomorrow because, or depending on when you see this video, because the quiz on Wednesday will be out of 48 points. Okay, so don't start panicking and stressing. But if you start doing poorly on the quiz and test tomorrow, right, you're going to be off to a bad start. But there'll still be other opportunities for you to raise your grade. All right, so that's that. That's the reason why you say HQ. What is that? That's your homework quiz and then your score out of 5 points. Okay, so before you start emailing me, why am I getting a D and F? This is why. Okay, you only have one quiz score, which is out of 5 points. If you did poorly on that, of course, your grade is low. Okay, so you have a chance to redeem yourself. And I explained to you why, okay? A lot of you students are not watching the videos. I have 90 students in 3 math analysis classes. When I only see 20 or 30 views and I spend lots of time making these videos, it's not just for fun, all right? You got to pay attention to the details. Once you learn that, it's like, oh, Mrs. Zhu means business, meaning I can't miss the details, then you should be fine. All right, so let me just go over this one problem, okay? So you're like, oh, I got the answer, Mrs. Zhu. It doesn't matter. I care about your work. If your work is wrong on tomorrow's quiz or on Wednesday's quiz and you have the right answer, I'm still not going to give you credit. You have to show the correct process. All right, so first of all, this is an even root function, right? And concept number 1, for all even roots, you have to set the argument, right? The argument, which whatever's inside over here, you have to set it greater than or equal to 0. All right, so what do I do now? This is for any even root functions. This is called a quadratic inequality. In a quadratic inequality, you do not get x by itself, okay? A lot of you got x by itself. Now, some of you could actually graph this, but I want you to solve this algebraically. That's what you're going to be doing on tomorrow's quiz or Wednesday's quiz. And the way you do that is you get the x-intercepts. Okay, you briefly set it equal to 0, right? And then you solve for x. You could take the square root, or you can, factor difference of two squares. Now, these are my critical numbers, okay? Critical numbers. And you test it on the number line. This is what I was looking for, okay? Because there's an equal sign over here, this inequality right here, there's an equal sign down here, right? You want to draw a closed circle. And then over here, right, here's x, here's f of x. All right? Now, what does this inequality state? If I go back to this, if I call this f of x, okay? So you've seen me write this before. This is saying, what are the x values? What are the x values such that, right, st, such that f of x is greater than or equal to 0? That's what the question is asking. A lot of you in your homework, some of you didn't even show work, you just wrote down the answer. Some of you just got x by itself. I told you that's not how you solve a quadratic / polynomial inequality. You get the critical numbers and you test it on the number line. That's how you do it. All right, now I showed you way 2, which is the sketch, but let's just do way 1. Okay, test it on the number line. All right, so that means I need to figure out where f of x is positive. So start testing. Okay, if I plug in negative 11 over here, this is the work you need to show. I plug it back into the original inequality. Well, 100 minus negative 11. Negative 11 squared is 121. 100 minus 121. It's going to be, you know, negative, right? Negative 21. I don't care about the actual number. I care about the sign. So it's negative, right? Plug in 0 over here. Back into the original inequality. 100 minus 0. That's just 100, right? 100 minus 0 squared, which is just 100. So that's positive. And then plug in positive 11, right? A number that's greater than 10 is 11. Again, 100 minus 121, that's negative. So in this region, the y value is going to be negative. But the question is, what are the x values such that f of x is positive? Well, where's f of x positive? Right here. And your final answer is negative 10 to 10. All right, so this is what I was looking for. I was looking for this work. You guys did not pay attention, and you're going to lose points. All right, but as you guys get used to my rules, get used to watching all the videos and taking notes, you will learn, okay? Hopefully you'll learn. All right, now, that's enough about the homework quiz. I will now give you some pointers on what is on tomorrow's quiz, okay? So, you know, rewind the video, pay close attention. There's 6 questions, and I'll tell you the types of questions, okay? Those of you who went to tutoring already know, but let me just be more specific, so I'll let the whole class know. The first 2 questions on your quiz in 1.1 to 1.3 involve lines. Okay, I'm going to ask you to write the equation that's perpendicular to this line, passes through this point. Write the equation that's, you know, parallel to this line, or write that passes through a point. So you have to know all the forms, okay? Slope intercept, general form, standard form, point slope. Again, it's open notes, okay? So if you forget it, you can always go back and look at what form I'm looking for when I give you the vocabulary, okay? When I use the vocabulary, I should say. So make sure you know how to manipulate, okay? Make sure you know how to clear fractions. There might be some fractions in your problem. Don't be intimidated, okay? But the first 2 questions are on 1.1, which is linear functions. Question number 3, I'm going to ask you maybe, you know, determine if it's even or odd algebraically. I might give you a piecewise and then say, hey, where's it increasing, decreasing? But you have to plot the piecewise by hand, okay? I know you could use Desmos, but most of this quiz, you're going to be asked to justify algebraically. I might ask you to determine if, you know, this represents y as a function of x, okay? So that's question 3. Question number 4, I'm going to ask you to state the domain using interval notation, and you have to justify algebraically. Don't graph it. So on this problem right here, right, I saw one of you guys actually graph it. You're like, okay, you know, I use Desmos, you know, the domain, right, is just negative 10 to 10, right? But I want you to justify algebraically, all right? So don't use, I mean, you could use Desmos just to check your answer, but don't just say, oh, I use Desmos. You have to justify algebraically, okay? So question 4 is a domain question. There might be part A and B. Question number 5 is a difference quotient problem. You might get a fraction, you might get a radical, you might get a, you know, polynomial. You have to be comfortable with manipulating the algebra skills, okay? And the very last question is going to be write something as a function of something. So remember questions 15 through 20 on the difference quotient worksheet? There's only going to be one type of question like that, okay? So I know a lot of you have been asking for help, but the majority of the quiz is not going to be problems 15 through 20, just one of them, okay? The very last question. So again, I told you what's on the quiz, the topics that's covered. Again, if you do well in this quiz, right, you'll see your grade improve dramatically. If you do poorly, right, of course your grade's going to slip. But you know, my recommendation, right, is to do the homework, watch all the videos, take notes, right? Again, notes are not required, but it's highly recommended, and pay attention to the details, okay? Every word, every problem that I explain to you is not just for fun. It's not just for FYI. I could test you on it, okay? So if you learn this lesson now,